Hello and welcome. My name is Ajaxpost, and yes, you're right, we're here. We finally have Transport Fever 2, long awaited, and we're looking at the moment, a pre-release version of the game. Depending on when you're watching of this, of course, it's going to be released in about 3 weeks' time, 2.5, 3 weeks, something along those lines. Unless, of course, it's gone that, you've already got it. But yeah, first of all, I really must thank Urban Games not only for creating this piece of work, but offering me a free pre-release key so I can have a look at it, play with it, and hopefully offer you some insight into what the game offers, how different it is to Transport Fever that came before it, and the new challenges that we have been teased with over the last few months by their development highlights videos, which gives you some insight into the mechanics of the game that we're about to see. Now, as we'll see in a moment, I'm not going to be starting a big long Let's Play series for one particularly good reason. So what I'm going to do for the next couple of weeks or so until the game is released is create hopefully a series of reasonably short get-to-know videos just to have a look at and investigate the various aspects of the game so that we're all familiar with it, how it works, and we can sort of then move on and really enjoy the game experience. So yes, that's what we're going to do. As you know, if you're a regular viewer to the channel, I'm not terribly good at quick and short, but I'll do my best to keep these short, reasonably snappy and to the point. So first off, let's get into the game. And the first thing we're going to do, though, before we actually start playing, is have a look at our settings. Now, these are the settings we have available to it. There's nothing terribly new and exciting here. You've got all sorts of Windows resolutions you can choose. Going up to 30. I don't have 4K. I'm not quite sure what that requires, so I'm not seeing it there. Would it say 4K? I don't know. You can make your decision on that. And we have a number of preset graphic settings. Now, mine came up initially as low, which I thought was rather disappointing. So I thought, let's go medium. That's what I prefer to use, at least if not high. And then I realised a warning popped up. I need at least 3 GB of graphics memory to run in medium settings, which is high textures and medium geometry and shadows and the rest of it. If I take these down low, will that help? No, it doesn't look like it will. No grass. You can't have no grass, can you? That's ridiculous. So what we're going to do, this is why I'm just putting off putting the big long Let's Play series together. I want to see the full glory of the game and all its graphical wonderness. Now, I'm thinking that the performance of the game may be similar to Transport Fever in terms of CPU usage, which was the main problem with the previous game. But they've obviously, as we've seen in the development highlights, they've really ramped up the visuals in this game. And that, I suspect, is why we're needing that little bit better a graphics card. I mean, my PC is 6 years old. I've only got 2 GB on a GTX 660, so it's not a bad card, but it's not quite up to the mark these days. So those are my settings. I'm not quite sure what any of these mean because I'm no graphics expert, but we'll do that and see what it does. Audio, we have sound settings here. We've got menu music, a whole new music soundtrack. I kind of like it, but again, that depends on your taste, so your mileage may vary. Controls, we have key bindings, we have mouse controls, panning and tilting and so on. One thing I noticed when I got the first build of the game just a couple of days ago, the pause key hadn't been enabled. So you had to click on the stop or the pause icon in the game to actually stop the game running. This may have been fixed. We have had at least one update since I got the game. And that may not be an issue when you get it on the full release version. So just check that all the key bindings are there for you to use. Interface, how would you like to measure stuff, basically? I, being English, tend to use miles and miles per hour and stuff. That's what I put in here. We'll see how it works. There used to be an issue with that in Transport Fever, in that stations were always measured in meters, so it could be a little bit awkward to work out if your train would actually fit within the length of the platforms. So I think we could use yard for that. Yep, that's fine. Money units, I will use full. I like big numbers with money in. Vehicle lifetime notifications. Now that's going to be an issue going forward, as we'll see in the gameplay. Lifetime has kind of changed. Open vehicle window on purchase. I actually quite like that. So I'll have that when I purchase a new vehicle. I like to see the vehicle window pop up. The guide system. This is a series of prompts and tips and ideas and suggestions that are generated by the game automatically as you go through. I've turned that off just because that they kind of get in the way. But they're very handy if you're new to the game or are unfamiliar with the way the whole thing works, the mechanics of it. And advanced autosave interval. There have been reports in the early versions of the game so far, pre-release, of crashes and 1 or 2 bugs and stuff, so you may want to keep the autosave interval down to something reasonably short. I'm going to run a risk. I'm going to turn that up to 30. There you are, and we'll keep 10 autosaves. Mouse cursor, crash reports, always handy. Sometimes, certainly at this stage of the game, very first build going out to the public. Enable the camera tool. Let's do that. I'm not quite sure what the debug mode does. We'll come back to that if we want to use it. Okay, let's apply those settings and let's get into creating our first game. And we're going to go into free game. Now what I'm going to use here is a map I created myself using the new tropical environment. And here, this is what you get when you create a brand new game, you know, from scratch using the random settings. So you could either use our familiar green and orange yellow environments, so European green and the American red style, or we can use the new tropical setting. And how the map is laid out, the characteristics of the map, you can modify using these sliders here. They're not really sliders as such, they're sort of click. They have certain click hit points to hit. So there we go. And what you change here varies according to the environment you selected. So in the dry, you're looking more at canyons, mesas, ridges, and so on. Not so much forests, I would have thought, out in the desert, but you never know. Okay, the sizes of maps we have available to us: small, medium, large and very large. I imagine, like in Transport Fever, you could go huge if you wanted to. There'll be an experimental debug mode for that. I've not tried that, largely because I can't imagine my PC would be able to cope with it. The orientations of the map, we still have the same ratios: 1:1 square, and the rectangles 1:2 and 1:3. And if you're designing your own maps, just notice they are oriented in as what you say is portrait mode. Now, interestingly, as you select the different size of map, notice down here it sort of gives you an idea of the actual represented size in kilometres. I selected miles, didn't I? Anyway, and the number of towns and the number of industries you want. Notice there's an awful lot of industries supplied by default for the number of towns. And that's because the way cargo, freight and so on is handled is completely different in Transport Fever 2. Let's we'll go there, square map. And we can again select here the number of towns and the number of industries relative to the size of the map. So you get the default size, sort of medium, or you can go a low number of towns. I'll just watch the map generate again. And a low number of industries. Again, depending on the challenge you want to make of the game. Okay. And again, notice that there is substantially more industries than there are towns on the map, regardless. You can't choose exactly how many. You get a sort of a number given to you by the game, which represents what they suggest is a good selection, a good arrangement of towns and industries. The seed, you can change that, so we'll call this one Ajax, and we'll come up with a completely different map for our desert environment. Okay, so what I will actually do here is I will actually play a map I created using the map editor. I have created a tutorial video going through the basics of creating a map, which I hopefully will be able to link to this video. It's a little bit longer. As you know, I do tend to ramble a bit in some of my videos, but if you want to have a look at sort of basic map creation, then by all means check out that tutorial that I've uploaded. So I've created a tropical map because we've not played with the tropical environment before, my Ajax Get to Know map. And in the map, it's a small map with about a dozen towns and double that number of industries, so I might have the balance wrong. We shall see. I set in the map the difficulty to medium and the start date of January the 1st 1900. Though oddly enough the start year it says here is 1850. I don't know if that's a bug or an issue. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, so we shall see when we get into it. Right, so let's start Transport Fever 2 Get to Know. And so here we are. This is my tropical island map. Because it's a brand new set of options, I've selected here not just a tropical environment but also Asian town names. And as you can see, they've picked from all across the Asian continent, from east to west, from Russia, sorry, from the Middle East, from Tehran, Riyadh rather, through Russia, Yakutsk, through China, Taichung, Suzhou, I don't know how to pronounce some of these names, I'm afraid. Right through India and Cyprus, or Sri Lanka rather, as it's correctly known now, Pune, Jaffna, Turkey, Izmir, and so on. So yeah, a wide range of towns across the whole continent. Now you can change these names if you wish, for any of your towns. Let's say, oh, which one should I couldn't pronounce that one, could I? Up here. It wasn't that one, it was this one here. So shall we call this one Shanghai? Okay, so this is the new town details dialog box. As you can see, we have currently 187 residents. We have 186 shopping facilities and 186 work facilities. Now this is something I haven't quite worked out yet. The initial size of shoes, that's what it was called, maybe that'll change if I click out of that and go back. Shanghai, thank you, it has corrected it. Let's bring that over here so you can see it better. Okay, so the initial size of the city was that, and it the growth is -95. So if I go to the towns option here, where is Shanghai? Is this 186? So again, I'm not quite sure where these come from. These numbers come from. We have charts and destinations. These will give us information on how well our city is doing and where our people are going. Obviously they're going nowhere yet because the game hasn't started, but there you go. The other thing you have here is the city. Each city requires just 2 cargo goods. In this case, in Shanghai's case, it's food and construction material, whereas in, for example, Izmir over here, we are requiring goods and machines. Oh dear, that looks like a more difficult place to supply, because goods and machines sound like there's a whole cargo industrial chain to provide those particular goods. And one of the nice things here is that I think the icons are that much nicer here, and they're more evident, as we shall see when we start placing stations into the map. Okay, so a quick look around the UI, the interface to start with. So as we see, there are towns and our industries scattered around the map. We can see down here our line manager. So that's our line statistics, that's how well our lines are doing. Our vehicle statistics. And stations, we don't have any stations yet. Our town list, so we can order it by cargo, by growth. They're all -60 for some reason, but there you go. And the size. And our industries, again, we can order these just by clicking the title heading, so we can check what's required, what product is used, and the production of each of those. So our raw materials are currently outputting at these levels. We will see if using them actually changes that, whether it drops or whether it grows. depending on how we manage to supply the cities using their products. We have what they've done. They've integrated the sort of vehicle and building menus here, where they were separate in Transport Fever. Here, everything to do with roads is on this one button here. So you've got the streets, which you can look at, town roads or country roads, and buildings. So all the passenger stations and the cargo stations and the depots are all there on that separate tab. Likewise for train, you've got tracks, signals, waypoints, and all the buildings you could possibly need for stations. The terrain tools, they're pretty much as they were before. They're just sort of looking neater, more elegant, and a little bit more modern than they were before. So we have the flatten tool, we have smoothing, which we're very familiar with, we have up and down, and a height map texture. Now this one I really don't quite know how this works. You're going to get a kind of template of a height map, and you can then decide whether to use that. We will look at that at some other point perhaps, but for gameplay I'm not going to be using that. This map is exactly as I created it, and we're not going to fiddle with it at this point of the game. Now the overlays, the information overlays, are here in the top left corner. So we have the contour lines. Now I'm not entirely convinced that this bright white works in all cases, but it does. It helps you identify what you're looking at, and you don't get lost in all the other stuff on the map, which could be an issue with the old Transport Fever. So although it's a bright white, you can see the bold contour lines quite clearly, and you've got the green to highlight where things are getting really, really high, or indeed really, really low. Navigable areas, all of this water, this green, is navigable. Obviously if you're drawing rivers on a map, or you're building rivers, then you may want to check that, certainly when you're building bridges. Land use, it's a lot paler now. Well then again, we have just started the game, so there is no growth here, so we're not seeing any high residential or commercial or industrial buildings here, so we're not looking at high density just yet. Speed limits, we don't have speed limits just yet, and we'll look at the destinations and the cargo transportation and the rest of this as we go through the game. But I think the first thing we can do is get our first stations set up. Now one of the first things we would normally do is look for big towns. Well, I would do is look for big towns. So we look. I thought they were down here. So Tehran and Riyadh, they're my two largest towns. Shanghai and Taichung, wherever they are. So let's go to Shanghai. That's you. Taichung is also up here. Oh, there's the other one. Okay, now this might work better for a rail. It's not quite as long as our lines down here would be. Actually, this looks like it could make a nice ferry setup, couldn't it? But what we'll do first, we'll go basic. Let's put some buses on this route. So first off, let's create our route. This is our line manager. Let's create a brand new. Can't create a line. We've got to put stations in first. You plank. Right, so where are we going to put our bus stations to start with? We want a passenger station. Now this is a really nice thing in the map. Rather than putting the colours up, having to put the colours up separately, when you select a station building, it automatically highlights whether it's commercial or industrial or residential, using this nice simple technique of putting the icons above the building. So we can know here these are our industrial areas who require construction materials, and this is our commercial area requiring goods, and this obviously without anything above it is the residential area. So let's create. What I like to do is have people come into the town for work or shopping. So my main station will tend to be, well, I think, be out here. So let's look at this. So apparently we do have tram tracks in 1900. We have platforms left and right. And we can build a different number of platforms on our station. We have 3. So you're automatically growing the station just by selecting the number of platforms. We can do this for road, which I think is brand new. So we could in fact have nothing on the right hand side. We'll have one on both sides, I think. And how long do you want it to be? Again, this could be important when we're looking at long buses or long trams and the like. 30 metres. That's quite a long station. We'll go small for the moment. Don't want to spend too much money. So where are we going to put this stop in here? What we could do, actually, the road is coming in that way. Actually, I'm thinking down here. Will it fit in down here? It does indeed. Now notice here how it's highlighting the catchment area. None of that sort of vaguely, you can just about see it, lines on the road and highlighting of buildings. You've got the lines on the road still, as you can see there, where the catchment, where people would walk to. But you're also highlighting in this lovely white colour, very clear, what the catchment area is for this building. And notice also here, if we just twist this a little bit, got the N and the M keys of course to move it around, is in addition to the road connection I've got there, if I move it to this other road on the right, you see those 2 little markers there indicating that people will have access. There'll be a pedestrian access route into the bus station from that side as well automatically. So in fact that's a good idea, I think. So let's do that. Can I keep my costs down? That looks quite cheap. Let's put them in there. Oh, I've achieved my very first bus stop. Well done. And there you see, that grey there is obviously meant to represent a path. So that is our first bus station. So let's put some stops in around our town. And again, it's nice that you can see whether you're looking at industrial or commercial areas. So what we'll do, we will go off round here. And I'll put them on both sides. Now look at this, I like this. This is a really nice feature. You've got the direction arrows, so you know in which direction the traffic is going to be moving. Now at this point, I will say I was very excited when I went to the workshop for the first time after getting this pre-release copy of the game. Once again, thank you Urban Games for providing me with this. There is actually a script mod on the workshop, so your road vehicles drive on the left hand side, the correct side of the road. And it works, they do. The only issue with it is it doesn't affect the road arrows that you get on the stops themselves. So the arrows are still pointing in the driving on the right hand side of the road, the American European side of the road as it were. In fact, almost every country in the world apart from the UK drives on the right. So there is that conflict. The stops still show the basic direction of travel, but the actual mod does show your vehicles moving on the driving on the left in sort of British style. So okay, let's get these down here, and we will go round here. I think this is going to be quite a long route. This is quite a large city after all. I'm going to call it a city now, aren't I? Some there, and we'll get in through here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you up here. I'm going to quickly go into street building. We've got the modification tool, which allows you to put in catenaries for electric trams. And you have the upgrade tool, which allows you to change the actual road type itself. So these are all small roads. So we'll keep in with that style for the moment. I'll just draw you. Well, yeah, construction not possible. We're kind of familiar with that message, aren't we? And we're going to see a fair amount of that as we go through these get to know videos. So we'll stick you in there. Actually, that looks like a wide road. A wider road, doesn't it? Yes, it is. Put you in there. I've obviously misread the signals. Okay, so we've got our bus stop. Are they both sides of the road? They are indeed. So let's put some more bus stops down. And we'll put these, I think, here or here. Let's put them there, and that will be the end of the circle. So let's create our line. Brand new line. I've already created the line before I had the stops. So we'll go into, we'll stop there, we'll take it around there. And again, it's nice that it just shades everything out so you can just concentrate on the things you need to see. In this case, the bus stops, the stations. Around there, around there. Then what I'll do is I'll make this a sort of clockwise and counterclockwise loop, which isn't the most efficient way of running a route, but it's what I'm going to do for the moment. So we'll go back around this way. And there we are, job done. Okay, we've got a route in Tehran. We're going to need a depot to buy vehicles from. So buildings, depots, we have a tram depot and a road depot. We'll stick this, we might as well stick it out here with the bus stop, I think. Actually, no, stick it on the other side of the road. There you go. Now before we buy new buses, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a similar route in Riyadh, a town route, and then we'll connect the two together and get them going. Okay, so I've now set up a similar circular route in Riyadh. One thing I've not done, which I usually do of course with my routes, is give them names. So let's go into this, we'll change this one, and this is the Tehran circular. I'll just abbreviate that to circle, less chance of me misspelling it. And Riyadh circle. And that's our stations. Now what I also want to do in here is create a intercity route. So one more route to go. So one new line, and we'll go from there to Riyadh. So that's going to be this route here. I'm going to call it Tehran Riyadh. I can't spell for toffee. Intercity route. There you go. Okay, we've got our depot. In fact, what we'll do, we'll take all our vehicles out of this one depot. So in the Tehran bit, we just click on that and go to buy vehicles. We could have gone here to buy vehicles and just selected from the icon here which depot we want to buy them from. So let's buy these vehicles. And we're looking at passengers, and we've got a droshki for passenger carriages, and in cargo we've got a flatbed, horse-drawn with side stakes, and a first truck. Excellent. These are, it looks like cargo is basically Russian, and it looks like this horse carriage for passengers is also Russian. But there you go. Okay, so how many of these do we want? Let's buy 4, I think, for the in-city route. So we'll buy 4 of those, and we will attach them to put them on the Riyadh circle line to start with, I think. We'll set those going, and we'll buy another 4. Just, in fact, I can just type 4 in there, buy those, and set them on the Tehran circle. Perhaps buy 6. Let's try 6. Actually, what I'll do is I'll buy 4 of those and put those on the intercity route. There's the route there. So it goes on the intercity. Okay, so that's me earning achievements. We'll come back to our road vehicle in a moment. One of the features here in the vehicle manager, I must stop earning achievements. What we can do on the vehicles here is we can configure the vehicles, and that is putting the maintenance on them. Now this is an interesting thing. If we look at the lines here, there is nothing on here which determines when you replace a vehicle. All we have is the vehicle lifetime. So this is quite a difference. So the first big difference I spotted when looking at vehicles and lines is there is no replacement schedule anymore. It looks as if we'll get notified when the lifetime of the vehicle gets to, it needs to be replaced, and we'll get notification from then. Now that presumably is where the maintenance on the vehicles comes in. And this is simply, if we go normal, high, or very high, is how much extra we attach to the running cost. Now if there is context help in here, so if I click that button and click on maintenance, it doesn't tell me anything terribly useful. Okay, except down here the maintenance level can also be set. A high maintenance level leads to lower emissions but causes higher maintenance costs. So we don't really have emissions problems at this stage of the game, not with horse-drawn carriages. So, well, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, now the other reason I wanted to come here is I put 4 vehicles on the intercity route, but I actually want more than that, let's say 6. Now, we have a clone option here, and I can clone all these vehicles on this line, or I could just clone 2 of them. And that adds another 2 vehicles automatically to the Tehran, I can't spell Tehran, the Tehran-Riyadh intercity route. And this may be useful if you're putting a number of different consists on a route, for example. What else can we do in here? We can replace the selected vehicles, we can send them to depot, or we can sell those selected vehicles, or of course select them and put that number on a particular route, on a particular line. We have colour options, which are here, and that's the colour of the vehicles. Now I can make all these vehicles green. Are they green? I'm not seeing any green vehicles. Oh, yes I am. There it is. That's the Droshky, and he's green. Now if I click on that vehicle, thank you, the details of that, I can change the colour of it here, or remove it by using the X on this vehicle dialog box, which is nice. But I'm not sure you can do that as a whole for all the vehicles on the line. There's no obvious X there. We shall see if we can. Okay, now I'm going to finish this episode here, and we'll look at one of the other fun things you can do in Transport Fever 2. Actually, let's go in town before to do that. Oh look, we've already got loads of passengers waiting. If we go to this vehicle here, we've got onboard camera, and it's mouse controlled. We can spin around. We don't have different positions of the onboard camera. We have a particular view of it, which is just ahead on road vehicles of the vehicle itself. I have tried it on trains, and it's a similar position on there, in fact, and we'll see that when we come up. But that's it. I think we'll finish this first episode of the new Transport Fever Get to Know series here. And in the next episode, we'll look at adding train stations. Oh, there's too many people here. This is just too fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to need more vehicles. So from me, Ajaxpost, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you've enjoyed it, it'd be great to hear from you, either simply by clicking a like, the thumbs up button, or even better, if you've got any thoughts, ideas, recommendations, criticisms of what I'm doing, or the game, or anything you want to say, just drop it into the comments box below. It would be great to hear from you. And of course, if you've not already done so, please do subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll know when I upload any more of the Transport Fever Get to Know series, or indeed any of my Let's Play videos. But from me, Ajaxpost, from here in Transport Fever 2, at long last, until the next time, bye bye for now.